She's old school. And that's where it should be.
The Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, the 8th chapter. Glory to you, Lord. Then they arrived at the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. And as he stepped out on land, a man of the city who had demons met him. And for a long time he had worn no clothes. And he did not live in a house, but he lived among the tombs. And when he saw Jesus, he fell down before him, and he shouted at the top of his voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For Jesus had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of this man. For many times it had seized him, and he was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles. But he would break the bonds and be driven out by the demon into the wild. Jesus then asked him, "What is your name?" He said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. They begged him not to order them to go back into the abyss. Now there on the hillside, a large herd of swine was feeding, and the demons begged Jesus to let them enter these. So he gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. When the swineherd saw what had happened, they ran off, and they told it in the city and in the country. And then people came out to see what had happened, and when they had come to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone, sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. And those who had seen it told them how the one who had been possessed by demons had been healed. Then all the people of the surrounding country asked Jesus to leave them, for they were seized with great fear. So he got into the boat and he returned. And the man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might be with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your home and declare how much God has done for you." So he went away, proclaiming throughout the city how much Jesus had done for him. This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
So I just want to check bases with you this morning before I begin the sermon. Are you comfortable? Everybody comfortable? It's nice to have pads on the pews. That kind of does the backside good. Not every church that I preach in has those. How about the temperature? Feeling pretty good about the temperature? Not too hot, not too cold. Just about right. What about the lights? Can you see okay? Everybody can see okay. So you are really feeling pretty comfortable. Well, there are different kinds of comfort, and there are different kinds of discomfort. For example, we don't usually want to say controversial things in church. Isn't that true? Because we have a very diverse congregation. And that's true of most congregations, whether Lutheran or Methodist or Catholic or Mennonite. Most congregations are very diverse and have lots of different opinions about everything. We have Democrats and Republicans, and we have apolitical people like myself. Don't really believe in parties, believe in good people who can do good jobs, but that doesn't often count. We have people who think and even bleed green, if you know what I mean. And yet we have people who really believe that global warming is a hoax. We have folks who drive really big cars. They feel really comfortable and safe in those cars. And then we have people like me who drive a 4-cylinder Fit. I have to tell people I'm not having a fit. I have a Fit at 38.5 miles to the gallon. And I don't drive mine for safety. I drive it for my pocketbook. And hopefully for the earth and the environment, but probably not so much. We have people from across the spectrum. So we need to be careful what we say, because we don't want to say something that might be out of line, that would upset somebody and make somebody uncomfortable. But you know what? Our congregation here this morning, and probably every congregation gathered this morning, have people in them who already have so many difficulties in their life that anything that we might think of that could make them uncomfortable isn't going to. They come here to worship, to hear just one thing, to experience just one thing, to talk to just one person who will give them a measure of relief from the kind of uncomfortableness that they have in their lives, which you and I might never even think of. Because we're back with the comfortable pew and the comfortable temperature and the good lighting. And yet there is somebody, even here this morning, who is uncomfortable about something much more important than those things. For those folks, comfort is no longer a goal. The only thing they're focused on is surviving the next minute, the next hour, the next day or week or month or year. Life is tough, isn't it? You're not worried about whether the Democrats or the Republicans or someone else has an answer, because your problems and my problems often go far beyond those considerations. Perhaps you or someone you know is hurting so deeply, so badly, that their stomachs are churning. The pain in their heart from grief or sorrow is so deep and painful and hurtful that you're not sure you or them will make it through this day. But again, we always have something that we're trying to hold on to. Someone we hope will listen to us. Someone who will touch us with that healing presence, who will give us a reason to hope. Well, if there is nothing else in our gospel this morning, this gospel shows us that Jesus does his best at looking at and realizing the chaos that was all around this man who was demon-possessed. And Jesus had one purpose in his listening to him, in his touching him, and in his healing him. And that was to bring him hope. We who are sitting here calmly, peacefully, comfortably, might have a hard time with this story of the demoniac that the Bible has spoken about. The crazy man. You know, for years people didn't read the Greek. They thought the man had a mental illness. There's no word in the Greek that talks about a mental illness. The word is Satan. That which is not of God had gotten into this soul. And what had happened to him? He was searching for hope in all the wrong places. And we are searching, aren't we? We are searching for answers. We would all like some relief in our own daily lives. Wouldn't you like to have a little less chaos in the world right now? Wouldn't you like to have just a little less drama in your families? Oh, maybe it's just my family that has drama. Probably not. The real peace is given by Jesus. And it may be this reading from Luke this morning, the 8th chapter, that is the catalyst for us. This man known as the demoniac, he's screaming, he's dirty, he's naked. He hasn't worn clothes for years. He hasn't lived in a house for years. I hate to tell you, but when we read this, we say, that can't be. Or, I don't know anybody like that. And yet, working at Goshen Hospital and working at a ghetto Lutheran church in Elkhart, I can tell you that these people exist. They walk the streets, some close, some little, no house, talking to themselves, sometimes screaming at themselves. This man twitching, falling down. He represents the world's chaos. After all, this man is chaos. But Jesus gently talks to him. Jesus moves closer and closer toward him, Jesus touches him. And the man suddenly stops yelling and twitching and falling down. It was just like when Jesus calmed the sea. It's just like what we're going to hear in a week or so, when the woman reached out after years and years of hemorrhaging and touched Jesus' garment. And in that moment of touch, she was healed. Jesus gives this man clothes. He sits down and talks with him. And my dear friends in Christ, I don't know about you, but when I see somebody who is as crazy as this man, I want to get in my car and lock the door. I am scared, like for snakes and spiders and other things, big black bears, even if they don't have teeth, of people who act crazy, like this man. But Jesus shows us what we need to do. He doesn't say we need to rescue them. He says we need to listen to them, touch them, and share God's hope with them. A friend of mine is a Lutheran pastor and a chaplain at Graterford Prison in Philadelphia. It houses the criminally, psychologically insane. These are mostly people who have done unbelievably horrendous things to other people. One of our sisters in my religious community was murdered in the serial killings in Harrisburg back in the 80s. She was the last of 5 women who were killed for one reason or another, for money, for a car, for you name it. And the young 27-year-old man who went on this rampage did so after he killed his brother because his brother put a gerbil on his chest and he didn't like it. The young man is psychologically, criminally insane. But my friend who is the chaplain there tells me that because of that kind of criminal insanity and the high that comes from doing one heinous crime after another, so the ante keeps being raised, their personhood is taken from them. Just like the personhood was taken from this demoniac. Every day he lived without clothes. Every day he lived not in a regular house. Every day he walked up and down the streets yelling and screaming and twitching and falling down. He became less and less of the person that God intended him to be. Well, this gospel does not promise us that Jesus will overcome our pain. It doesn't say that Jesus will take away the chaos in the world. It doesn't tell us that Satan is not still alive and well and ready to tempt us. But it does say what Christ will do for us. Christ will come to us and stay with us in the midst of any kind of chaos that you or I could possibly imagine. any kind of family drama that might be yours or mine, any kind of personal grief which sickens our stomachs or crushes our hearts. And he promises he will heal us through the waters of baptism and the moment that we stand around and kneel around this table to take in his body and blood. He heals us. He forgives us. He renews us. And he gives us new life. It is no accident that Luke places all these stories, the calming of the sea, the calming of the demoniac, the healing of the woman with a bleed for how many years. He's trying to tell us Jesus is more than a teacher. Jesus is more than a healer. Jesus is everything that we need. God breaks into our world, chaos or not, hectic lives or not. My prayer is that in these days to come, you and I will recognize Jesus showing up, sitting next to us when we least expect it, listening to us, touching us, healing us, and giving us the power that only God can give us to thwart Satan and all his evil promises. That is my prayer this day. And my prayer is that we will proclaim it to the world, often and loud. Amen.